So do I start?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So the topic for today is when education fails the average student. See, when we talk about failure in education, we usually imagine a visible collapse, a child who can't cope, a student who drops out. But the most dangerous failures are not loud. They are quiet, cumulative, and socially acceptable. Today, I'm not talking about students who fail exams. I'm talking about students who pass yet slowly disengage from real understanding. They are present, they are compliant, they move from one class to another without resistance. And because nothing looks broken, the system keeps moving forward. This silence, disengagement, not visible failure, is what I'm calling as the missing middle. See, you enter any classroom, a class of 30 to 40 students, the majority of the students fall in the category of average students. And we need to worry about them for a simple reason. When the average student disengages, nothing collapses immediately. But over time, confidence erodes, thinking narrows, and potential goes unused. For the student, this means passing exams without trusting their own thinking. For the country, it means a workforce that can execute instruction but hesitates to question, adapt, or innovate. No nation is built by its toppers alone. It is built by what happens to its middle, and hence the topic today. Uh, all right. First, let's define what an average student means without judgment. In any classroom, the first two rows are usually students who already know which entrance exams they are going to write and which college they are aiming for. The last two rows often belong to students who struggle with assignments, discipline, or passing exams. And there are five or six rows in the middle. These students will typically score between 40 to 70%. They will attend the classes regularly. They will submit the assignments. They will follow the instructions. Nothing about them triggers concern. Parents are not worried. Teachers are not alarmed. The report card looks acceptable. The problem is that our system knows how to deal with extremes. High achievers get attention and opportunity. Low achievers get intervention and monitoring. But this middle group triggers nothing. They don't interrupt, they don't demand attention. And because system responds to noise, these children quietly disappear from our focus. That assumption that they are learning well enough to move from one class to another, this is where the problem begins. All right. See, majority of our children are lying in this category of average students. To understand why, we need to look at the national learning data, including the data from ASER and NAS. The data shows a very consistent pattern. In the early years, learning improves and then it slows. And then for a large group of students, it almost stops. What basically I'm saying is, if you look at the data over here, this is like, when the kids are 1 and 2 years of age, there is no formal learning happening. It's all informal. And then we see a steep rise here. All right, this is a steep rise. And then after some time, it becomes very flat. There is a plateau that is there. For about classes 5 or 6, learning and syllabus, they move together. After that, the syllabus keeps getting harder every year, but the understanding does not deepen at the same rate. As a teacher, I find that in grade 11, even by the end of the session, some students are not able to move beyond grade 9 understanding in physics. So, what is happening is that time is passing, classes are happening, chapters are completed, but learning is no longer growing. According to ASAR and the NAS data, roughly 40% of the students stop deepening their understanding while difficulty of the syllabus continues to increase. After about middle years, the difficulty is increasing at the rate of about 60% every year. But 40% of the students, they are not growing at the same pace. Just an example, half the students in the age group of 14 to 18, they struggle with basic division. So how do we expect these children to do science and math after grade 10? 85% of the students, they can measure the length by using a scale, a ruler, which has got a zero. But in case the scale is broken, the 0 point is not visible, only 39% can do this correctly. So in a syllabus-driven, exam-bound, time-locked system, this learning gap, once it's open, it goes on becoming wider and wider week after week and year after year. See, this is the real-time data. You can see the sources also cited over here. As we can see here, in by grade 11, nearly half the class is struggling with basic numeracy. By grade 6, more than half cannot reliably recall multiplication tables. By grade 9, only one-third understands the properties of numbers they've been using for years. And by adolescence, fewer than 11% can calculate a simple loan repayment. This is not a failure at margins. This is a failure being carried forward year after year. These students are not suddenly weak in higher classes. They were never repaired when the cracks first appeared. And each of these failures builds on the previous one. See, and the problem is that once these gaps enter the system, our assessment ensures that they are rarely detected. Exams in our country, or rather even worldwide, they are very good at one thing, ranking students. They are very poor at telling a student that what exactly the child is not understanding. So marks are sort of sorting students, they are not guiding learning. A student can score 55 to 60% without knowing where the learning gaps are. So the gaps travel forward undetected. Our assessments are designed to reward speed over depth, correct answers over reasoning. They are not rewarding explanation. So passing has become a camouflage sort of. No proper feedback, remediation is given, and thereby curiosity is not encouraged. Curiosity, once it becomes risky for a child, then understanding becomes optional. And this is how learning gaps are turning invisible and they are becoming permanent. So, what are our children doing? What is this average group of children thereby doing? See, when understanding stops deepening, but the system keeps moving forward, students, they learn to adapt. Not by asking more questions, but by learning what the system rewards. If I introduce a new concept in my class, maybe 3 or 4 or 5 students will get it quickly. Most will not. But my class will move on because the timetable demands it. The chapter will end on paper, but the doubt will remain. So, what do these children do when the lesson is going on? They will not, they will copy, they will reproduce. They learn strategic skipping. They learn very quickly what can be ignored, what can be memorized, and what will fetch partial marks. Because, if a numerical is given, the child knows, even if I'm not able to reach the correct answer, I do 1 or 2 steps, I put a correct formula, I will get some marks. As a teacher, I would not say that this is laziness. Rather, I would call it as intelligent adaptation. But all of this is coming at a cost. Students stop building understanding, they start building survival strategies. And once survival starts working for them, because they are going from one class to another, learning is not happening. And what my experience in school tells me that this gap does not remain just an academic problem when the children are in the grades 11 or 12, it becomes psychological. How often we come across children saying, I don't understand the topic. They stop saying that after a while, and instead, what they start saying is, maybe I am not suited for this subject. Maybe science is not for me. So once these survival strategies the child has imbibed, it has become a routine for the child. The student stops blaming the system and instead starts blaming themselves. So effort drops, not because they don't care, but because identity has shifted. Learning has totally become transactional. The children node is only looking at the fact, will this come in the exams? Will this fetch me marks? That is why dependence on coaching industry has also increased over a time. We know that it's become a sort of a menace in our country. And the fear of conceptual subjects has also deepened. Now, these kids, by the time they reach college, the structure weakens further because in college, the feedback loop is not as robust as it is in schools. And when these children make it to the workplace, the same pattern continues. How often have we come across, the industry leaders saying that when the children join the workforce, they are not ready because these are children who are okay with taking instructions, but they hesitate to take ownership. In the school, we are calling these children as being average. In the workplace, we call it as a lack of initiative. To be honest, it's neither. It's simply a learned hesitation. So far, I've covered, in my perspective, what the problem is. But of course, the most important thing is how do we repair the damage? I feel that the missing middle does not need motivation. It does not need pressure. It does not need more content. It needs structural permission to recover. And that recovery must happen at three levels: parents, teachers, and students. Not through big reforms, but through small, repeatable shifts in daily behavior. For example, for parents, when a child gives an exam, they will come and ask the child, Ki, how much did you score? Can they uh, turn the question to something like, what part of the chapter confused you? Because when we say this, we are primarily giving the message to the child that confusion is okay. Learning is more important, marks will follow. And that gives the confidence to the child that understanding is right up there. Success will come once understanding is cemented. Now, as far as teachers are concerned, every day we have a class, we will obviously ask our children, okay, are you getting it? And this middle will nod. I may or may not know that they haven't got it, but then we go ahead with the chapter because, like, there is the timetable is such and the syllabus is so much. Instead of simply asking, have you got it? Can we go a step further? And what has worked for me is exit tickets. Where before the child is to leave the class, I give them an exit ticket, maybe asking a conceptual question, any question that does not require rote or memory. This automatically and immediately becomes diagnostic. Once the teaching learning becomes diagnostic, then it is very easy to catch what the child is not getting. And then we can build on understanding. Because the problem that has happened in the junior classes, we can arrest it then and there. And it doesn't take too much of a time either. And then the students, I would want the children to, you know, take care of one thing. Students need to explain what they are learning and just not be happy with getting a correct answer. What I feel is that the missing middle does not need acceleration, it needs verification. The missing middle doesn't fail loudly, it's just that it is being ignored. But if we want real educational reform, this is where we need to work. Not on more content, not on tougher exams, but by restoring intellectual confidence before survival becomes identity. We do not have a talent shortage in our country. We have a talent conversion problem. The next innovator need not be the child who's sitting in the front bench, the star of the class. It has to be a student who's sitting in the third row. At the moment, he's confused, quiet, and waiting for the permission to think. Our job, I guess, as parents, as teachers, is simple: stop moving on, start catching up. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rachna. Wonderful explanation, ma'am. The average student we used to call in our generation the missing middle,
Absolutely.
right? Yeah, very alarming and concerning uh, for the child. They are not the poor learners or the slow learners, neither they are like, immediate, they can't respond immediately and all that. So very well put, ma'am. So what specific grade level do you believe is the critical point where intervention could prevent students from falling into this missing middle, ma'am?
I think once the children come into the middle school, that is the time when we need to be most vigilant.
Mm.
Till they are in grade 4 and 5, they are not much, the societal pressure or the self pressure that the children are inflicting on themselves, it is not very pronounced. Once they come to grade 6, then there are biological factors also which kick in, and that is why they become more conscious. Now, this is the time that we need to make them most comfortable in their skin. To be very honest, now the adolescent problems, as we call them, there is a lot of focus on it. The parents, the teachers, the schools are all working in that direction. Should I stop sharing here?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can.
Huh.
Thank you. Yeah.
So while we are looking into the adjacent facts of the children growing up, this aspect is still not exactly untouched, but it is not taken care of. So I guess when the children come to grade 6, it is then even the national data supports it, because till the age of 8 to 10, the growing, the understanding and the syllabus, they are going hand to hand. It is only something, and when they come to the middle years, that something changes. So in my opinion, grade 6 is when we require the bestest of teachers and the most vigilant set of teachers. And of
Right.
course, the parental uh, intervention has to be there.
Of course. So coming back to the classroom methods, ma'am, what assessment methods would you recommend, ma'am? That go beyond ranking to actually detect these foundational gaps.
I think we need to have a diagnostic system of assessment.
Mhm.
See, for somebody like me proposing an overhaul in the examination and the assessment system, I think that's not going to work. And maybe I am not even qualified enough to propose that. See, every school we have formative assessments. The FAs have to be designed in such a way that they are diagnostic.
Mhm.
And we have tried the grading system also, partially successful, properly not imply not it was not implemented properly. This we can actually revisit the grading system, because the pressure of marks needs to be taken away, at least in
Right.
the middle school. Once the child gets comfortable with the fact that learning, understanding, knowledge, application is more important, I guess then the fear of marks will be on the wane. See, otherwise, whether it is our country or if you look at globally, the buzzword these days is STEAM education.
Mhm.
And I think we need to promote that. We already are doing it. Even in our country, since a long time, we've been talking of student centric learning, experiential learning. We talk of these measures all the time. Sorry. So we need to execute them properly, and the formatives can be based on what the children are learning, what the children are understanding. When we say that we need to inculcate in our children, especially in today's time, in the times of AI, the 21st century skills. So we should have a formatives designed in such a way that we are actually inculcating, testing the 21st century skills, whether it is critical thinking, whether it is collaboration, whether it is communication. I guess once the child gains confidence, then the fear of failure or the fear of being judged, it takes a backseat. So we can't do much about a term exam or the year-end annual
Yeah.
exam. But the formatives that we have throughout the year, they can be slightly managed so as to take off the marks pressure.
Yeah, but again, it's a challenge, right, ma'am? If the system is designed around exams and syllabus progression, how realistic is it to pause it, and repair these foundational gaps without these students falling further behind?
I'll give you my example. I teach physics and I teach grades 11 and 12. These are very, very challenging classes.
Yes,
As I guess everybody knows, and physics, anyways, is a
of
subject,
course. Yeah.
conceptual subject. Children are, I wouldn't use the word afraid, but yes, it is challenging for the kids.
I was afraid too. Yeah.
So, since last 1 year or so, like I mentioned, exit tickets, that is something which I have practiced. Believe
Mhm.
you me, before I started, it seemed like a chore. But before we enter a class, I think all the teachers, we have a lesson plan, not in black and white, but in our heads, if not in black and white.
Mhm.
Although I believe that teaching is a very creative endeavor, once we go into the class, the examples that we give and the way the lesson progresses depends upon what is the interaction that is happening with the children. But we do have a basic framework in our heads. Now, if for every class, I think of a conceptual question which I can give at the end of the class.
Mhm.
Maybe they can write it down on the white. The answers can be written on the whiteboard. They can be written on tiny slips, and they submit. I've tried this exit slip, like I said, one conceptual question. It may be a numerical, it may be a yes, no, it may be what they think. And then I collected. It seems like a chore, but believe you me, it is not. After one or two classes, it became a routine for the kids. It became a routine for me. I just have to glance it. I'm not rating it. So children also know they are not getting marks on it. But this serves as a beautiful diagnostic tool.
Great.
So
We
next
might look
time,
forward for the conceptual question, maybe. Yeah.
exactly, exactly. So you and see, as teachers, we know what the conceptual questions are. So it is not an extra effort.
Yeah.
What I feel is that we do not require major overhauls of anything. See, exams are going to be marks centric. We
Right.
cannot deny that. But what is the aim over here? A child who's scoring a 60 to 65%. I am not pulling them up. The parent is also not exactly pulling them up. The parent will say, "Ha, come here," but nevertheless, the parent is not going to say, "I want a 95," because then there is a notion in the heads of the child and the parent. It is okay. He is in the bracket of 65 to 70. He is average. It is going to remain like this. We
Mhm.
have to make that conscious effort and instill that confidence in that child that from 65 to 70, why are even you, it does not mean you are less intelligent.
Right.
You are not exploring your intelligence in the correct way. We have to work on that. And the side effect of this will be that even that 65 may come up to 85 if we are being marks centric. That
Right.
is the entire thing. So we don't require a major overhaul. We don't require more reference books. We only require tiny steps which can be repeated over a period of time. See, in the
Exactly.
class, when we give out the answer sheets and the child is getting maybe a 15 on 20, the child is not happy because he says, my parent is going to ask, why is it 15? Why not 18?
Right.
You can still have this in your head. Why 15? Why not 18? But you can ask the child, where exactly did you go wrong? Where exactly is the problem? Where you don't have to blame the child.
Yes.
See, if the child is scoring less, I mean, there are a number of factors which are contributing to it. So why are we just blaming the child? So just flipping the question a little, like I said, the parent might simply ask, "Hey, where is the problem? Did you work out where the problem is?" That would be enough to sort of trigger to the kid, it's okay. You know, the fear of failure, the fear of judgment, as it is, these are adolescents and there is a lot of peer pressure for many
Right.
things. So, and we are piling on that fear by giving them subtle messages that questioning is not correct. We need to remove that fear, I think, and this can be done with the tiny steps. Sometimes even teachers in the class, when if the child is asking a question, you sort of put it down. We need to stop these kind of practices. I guess these tiny things is what counts, and they will have a cumulative effect over a period of time.
Yes, ma'am. Right. You have spoken about the parents' role also, like how they can ask, like, where did you go wrong? What is the thing?
Absolutely.
Instead of asking, like, why not this percent? Why
Yeah.
only this much percent you have scored? That's a very good take. So, ma'am, how do we balance then? How do we balance covering the curriculum with ensuring deep understanding for average students? So, as an educator, it might be challenging for you, right? Where you need to focus on finishing the curriculum at the same time. You need to keep these students in mind, and like you want them to grow, right? Gain knowledge and perform well in the examinations too. So as an educator, how do you balance this?
uh, you know I think one aspect which is usually neglected and overlooked and is important is a constant feedback.
Mhm.
See, these average students, they feel that they are not even seen.
Right,
To be very honest, if there is a class of 40 to 50 in a class, which does students in a class, which happens in our country, there would be many educators, and this is not pointing a finger to anybody. We would know the toppers. We would know, like I said, the children who are not doing well. Sometimes we even struggle with the names of the children who are in that average category. So
right.
they are unseen. What I feel, like I said, ki I am not proposing any huge, measures, overhauling required. These children only need to be seen.
Mhm.
If in a class, if you're even calling out their names, giving them a feedback, this was correct, this was nice, I'm glad you said this. Even tiny feedbacks for these kids would mean a lot. I think as an educator, you're absolutely right. Our time is limited, our syllabus is too much. But I don't have to do, a lot of extra work to bring them into the class consciously. It is only tiny things that are required. Uh, uh, Sometimes as adults, even as young adults, we become very mechanical in our work.
Right.
Something like teaching, it cannot be on autopilot. This is what I believe. In a class, even if you are calling out the name of the child, encouraging them to say, because our focus is the front and the back benchers, we need to ensure that at least some part of our class, the focus is into the for these average kids also. If we just make them seen, I think it will make a difference.
Right, ma'am.
Because
So,
there are kids from my I've had the good fortune of being in this profession for a while now. There are kids who come back and say, this is very often, uh, ma'am, do you remember me? See, the
mhm.
topper wouldn't say it, the backbencher wouldn't say it. It is because it is these middle kids, ki they are practically invisible to a lot of teachers and to even the classmates around them. When they say, "Do you remember me?" Thankfully, I've got a good memory. I think most teachers are. We are good with names. And when you say, "Oh, you are this," and they are like,
Yeah,
it makes their day.
made
So
their
why
day. Yes,
yeah, why can't we give them these little tiny moments of being seen every day?
yes,
I agree with you. Syllabus completion, timetable, etc., etc. These are all constraints that we have. But this does not take too much of an effort. My submission, not that I do it very well, but yes, I'm consciously trying to do it more and more in my classrooms.
yes. I'm sure you must be. So, ma'am, how do these digital learning tools and AI tutors fit into this solving this problem? How will this help?
See, digital learning tools and AI particularly. I guess AI, if used in the correct way, and I'm sure children are doing it, I think it helps to build their confidence a little.
Mhm.
See, AI, we have to just ensure now that we use AI in the best possible way, and also actually learn from the kids to how to use for us also in the best possible
Yeah.
educational way. See, this is going to what they cannot. AI is getting better by the day. Till some time back, maybe say mathematically or from the physics point of view, it was not giving correct answers, but now it has started giving us, really good insights. So, what we are missing, if the child realizes that this is what we are missing in the class, as a teacher, I'm not able to diagnose. But however, if I can make the child aware that there is something that he can work upon, and he can use AI to diagnose his problem and to slightly work on it. But that first direction can be given by us.
Right.
I think that is important. That acceptance, because what I feel is happening is it's become very mechanical. It is somehow inside in them. I am not good enough. He's a bright child, and I am like an average child. That fear of averages has to be removed from the kid. And then I guess whether it is AI, whether it is online, other platforms which are available, the child will start using them uh, in the correct way, and which basically promotes his learning. But that confidence, it has to be by the teacher, by the parent, and then the child will find his way. We have to basically remove that inertia of average from his mind.
Absolutely, ma'am.
Then AI can be a tool, but
Yeah.
main work has to be done by us.
Yes, yes. So the emotions play an important role than the digital thing.
In this regard, I think yes.
Yes.
And then once that confidence is there, the fear of incompetency is taken away, then sky is the limit for them. Ma'am, we have so many examples where the kids who are average, they've become, trailblazers in their own field, whether it was Steve Jobs or whether, even Indian entrepreneurs that we have today. So,
Mhm.
but then these are few. We
Yes.
have to make them more than few.
More. True. Absolutely. We will. So, last question, ma'am, because of the time constraint, I have to wind up the session with this last question. What changes would you recommend to teacher training programs to better equip educators to identify and help these students?
See, I think for teachers, teaching is such a job wherein we are learning for life. Learning for us is not going to stop at all. And if it becomes a little slow, then we are not being good teachers. So I guess in teacher training, when we have or when there is a discussion amongst the teachers, we really need to work on strategies how to bring them into the mainstream, make them more active in the class. See, because knowing average children, who are those average kids, everybody knows. That's not a secret. Whether we want to look at it in terms of the classroom behavior, or whether we want to look at it in terms of marks, we know who are the average kids. Now, we need to change the focus. Like, I'll give you one tiny example that when the transition of the class happens from grade 9 to grade 10 or whatever, then there is a transition meeting between the teachers. And in that transition meeting, what is being discussed? Okay, who are the ones who do well, and or who are the ones who need extra care, who need extra attention, whose parents have to be called for the PTM and so on and so forth. So rather than focusing on the extremes, our conversation also has to come to the middle. Even in the school, when we are giving our annual performance report or whatever we call it, we write who are the toppers and where would we take the maximum scores to. Last year it was 98. Can I make it 99 this time? We need to focus on the kids. That has to become our core focus now, because the toppers will do well. Yeah, the ones at the bottom, yes, we will continue to work for them, give them extra classes, give them remediation, give them simpler worksheets. But average, we are neglecting them. So we need to consciously have discussions on how to bring them out of their shell. See, I am not again talking of make them from 65 to 85. We just need to work towards bringing them out of their shell. And We need to concentrate on that. And the strategies may be varied and they only have to be tiny because they are not lacking intelligence. They are lacking those, there have been some learning gaps, and those learning gaps have not been filled. We take, when we are giving subjects to the children from grade 10 to 11, I think probably every school takes some screening test. Why can't we have a screening test seriously and regularly, say in grade 6, in grade 7, in grade 8? The sooner we identify the learning gaps, the better it is for the kids and the better it is for the society as a whole. So I guess that conversation, it has to be very loud amongst the teachers, how to make our formatives more diagnostic and how to formally uh, identify the learning gaps in the kids. So this is what I feel.
Thank you so much, ma'am. School Journal of Education and schoolreformer.com. Thank you for the talk and for patiently answering all the questions. We will close the session now, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for this opportunity, ma'am.